I have two examples here, and I'm sharing this link. I will share it on the canvas. I'm going to call it MC221 InDesign practice. It's going to be on canvas. But I have two examples here. The first is fairly easy. The second is a bit tricky. Um, I'm going to try. I'm going to have you choose which one would you want me try. Would you want me to actually do? So this is the first page. This is like one of the pages. What I'm going to have you do is I'm not going to have you create this part. I'm just going to have you create the main page. So you have to create like a line here and then put in this entire page. So it's kind of fairly straightforward, right? So this is one of the exercises, and then the second one is tricky. It's not hard, but it might require you going into Photoshop and doing some stuff and then coming back. But this, which do you prefer, that or this? Should I create the simpler one so you kind of have a fair sense of how it works, right? So this is not really hard. It's actually doable. I've actually even tried it. Let me show you because I was like, oh, let me see if I can pull this off, and I actually did. So it is doable, right? But like I said, let us try the more easygoing version. So I'm going to recreate the exercise one. Right? So I need all of the files here, so I'm going to download them to my computer. I'm going to download these files to my computer. And then I'm going to go to InDesign and then create new file. So for the Arrow newspaper, they use a different size of the graphics. Let me show you. So you see, it's not your conventional newspaper. Conventional newspaper is like longer. It's like more tabloid. But you see, this is more like um landscape, and then it's just page by page. Unlike typical newspaper that is longer and then it has like different pages. So this size is not your typical size. This is more landscape, right? So we want to look for the size. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to one of the documents, the one I just downloaded, right? I'm going to look out for the size of the page. Let's see. So this is the paper. What's the size? Let's look for the size. Thing is called Get Info. Do we have the size there? Okay, they don't have it here. I wish they have it here. But I think it's something around 740 something by. Hold on. I think I've used it for that's what I used here. So it's 774 pixels by 756 landscape. 774 pixels by 756. So I'm going to create a new file. 774 by 756, 756. Make sure you change it to pixels. 756 pixels. Landscape, right? And then you create. Now you have your page here. Remember, you can always change the style of your page on the document here. But let's say we kind of have it here. You can make it landscape, whatever it is. And then what are we trying to create? This page. So what are the first things that you see on this page? Take a look at it. You see your headline, right? You see the arrow.com, you see the page, the date, and then you see that there are two images, and then there's a text. How many columns are on this text? Let's ignore this part. Actually, let's include it, even if we are not going to work on it. How many columns are on this page? Yeah, four, right? So what's the first thing we would do on InDesign? Make four columns. That's how you start. The basic thing, start with four columns. So that's how we start. So we start with four columns. So we go to frame, get in there, create four columns. right? And now we have our four columns. And then we are ignoring this column, right? We don't care about the first one. If we have time, we could create it, but we don't have time. So we would ignore it. But there's something else we actually missed. This part, where is it? This part would need a column. This part would need a frame by itself. So we want to reduce this frames and add this particular one that we'll use for southeast arrow and the date. So what do? We go there and we reduce the column. So you choose the select button and we want to reduce the columns, right? So now we have a space to add the smaller columns that will serve as our um, paper name and date. So we have a small one. And then I'm going to add text. And then it's all caps, right? So put southeast arrow.com. And then you use your text word processing function on the right side, on the panel side. The data on the right, the website link is on the left. So want to move to the right, you change it to the right. You have to, I think you can use the tabs. And then you type. What's that date? Please, someone. Okay, I don't have it here. February 5th to February 19th. February. February 5th to February 19th, 2025. Of course, you want to like adjust it. So, and then go to the text column. So we have our first item, right? What's the next thing that we do? We need text. We need this text. Well, we need the headlines first. So again, it means we have to reduce this columns or this frame because we need a separate frame for the headline. So what do? We select these columns and turn them down just a little bit. Same here. And you see, when you start bringing down, it tries to use those green arrows and lines to help you align. Please, alignment is so key when you're working on newspapers or magazines. So pay attention to those lines. It helps you align. So what is the next thing we want to create? There is a line separating the arrow staff and the main page. So we want to add that line. So when you go to your tool, you will see a line tool right there. You click on it and you draw a line. How long is the line? It starts from the top of this column and it goes down. We put it at the center, right? So this is what we have. We have our line, right? And then we want to add the headline. So the headline should be a separate frame by itself. Let's add a new frame for the headline. We want to make sure it's aligned. So are you seeing that? Make sure it is always aligned. And then we want to add our headline. So what's our headline? I'm just going to copy it here. Harrison College of Business Computing introduces new interim leadership. We post it. Now, what do? We increase the size of it. What's a good size here? Let's start with 41. Too big. You can now start choosing the best size, right? But we want it to we want to look for a text that would allow it maybe stay together. So we probably want to like maybe center it. Let's see. We centered it. No. No. And by the way, when you're working on newspapers, you don't use the centered alignment. You always use the left align. You wouldn't use it like justified. And then we want to choose a font that has a bold because we want to bolden this. What's a good font to use? Let us see. And for those who recall, what type of font is this Minion Pro right now? Is this serif or sans serif? Right? What do we have here? Is this serif or sans serif? So we want to look for something comparable, right? So I could do, let's play around and see what we can find. You can also filter by the type of font over there. Click on filter. You could choose sans serif or serif. It will show you all of the serifs. All right. You can choose heavyweight, so these are some of the functions that you can actually choose. And then choose all of the different types that we have. I could do Marian. I think it's kind of close. Sure. Maybe make it bold. And then reduce the size to see what it looks like. Not exactly. How many of you notice, and this is something you should know, this font has a mixture of serif and sans serif. Can you see it? Yeah. So that's bad practice. This is an older stuff. I mean, I guess this was the font that was available, but you want to have consistent fonts in all of your typography. So we have a headline. We want to also add, what's the next thing? I don't like this font, personally. Sorry. It's not good. Let's see this one. Okay, just for the sake of time, let's use this. What else are we missing? So we are missing news story and this information here, right? So we could create a separate frame just for that alone, right? We could do that. So we could create the frame inside of this other one. So you either reduce it or you just create it inside of it. And then I would add text and paste, right? And put some space and maybe reduce the size of it. Reduce the size of it so it's smaller. And then okay, are we actually getting somewhere? Right? Okay. So we go back. I think this part is I think it is actually italicized. So you can choose a font that allows you to italicize or not, and that's fine. Now, let me show you something. Just because it's on the page doesn't mean it's correct. You see this photo submitted by Southeast? This is not supposed to be here. This information is supposed to be somewhere here because it's out of place here. The images you're referring to are this one. And this is something I've been on the arrow all about, put information where they're supposed to be. You can't be telling us the photos is here when the actual photos are somewhere here. So this kind of text should be somewhere here, right? That tells us, okay, this is the headshot of these people and then the information. But for the sake of this page, let's just try and recreate it so that you kind of learn some of those basics. Okay, now we have that. What I could do is I would probably reduce this a bit so that I am not eating into my page. And then bring this page here so it starts from the bottom. Okay, text. We need all of the text. So sometimes copying from the text can be weird. So I have the website open, so I could just copy the actual text from the website. Right, so let's copy the text. And let's go paste. So go to the text tool, select this button, and paste. You will notice, like I've always told you, if you look down, you see that red button there. You just click on the select tool. You'll see that red button. What does this tell us? Who knows? Who recalls? Yes, Elias. Exactly. So you click on it. There's more text. Click on it. Go to the next place. You click. There's probably more text. Click. Pay here. But you can tell that there's more text. So one thing we can do is we can highlight the text and reduce the size. Because again, remember, we have two images. So we probably need to even reduce the size a little bit further so that they can fit into the image. Maybe 8 is too small. Let's do this. And then for this column, we want it's too close to the items. We want to bring it down so that there's a little space between the information above and the actual text. So we are getting somewhere, right? Now, what's left? Images, right? So one thing we want to do is we want to probably create a space for this images so we can reduce this just enough. Or there's something we call text wrap. I talked about it by the end of class last time. A text wrap is when you have the text and you put a frame, the text will go around the frame in different forms. So we probably want to use like a text frame here. So we want to create two frames that where we are going to put our images. Two frames. One should align somewhere here. And the second should be somewhere here. Make sure these are aligned. Right? So we have two frames. Although this is not ideal, but just for the sake of this, let's assume we are doing. You can see that they are on top. But you can bring them down, put them behind text or stuff. But I'm just doing it like quickly. What I would typically do sometimes is just bring the actual text down. That's what we did here. Bring it down to this point, bring this down to this point, and then put your two frames in there. But now let us just do it rough the way, it's always good to like do things roughly. That way you learn along the way. So what's our first image for exercise 2, or actually it's exercise 1, is the Kevin Dixon, the head interim. So now we've put in that picture. What's wrong with that picture? Say again? It's very zoomed in, right? So how do we fix it? You go to do frame, right? What about the next one? We bring it in again, right? Bring in the image. Our eyes see the world. Mordor. Sorry, I'm just kidding. Okay, you fit it. And now it's either you see that there's text behind them, right? One thing you can do is, like I said, bring down the frame so it fits. Or you can do something called text wrap. I'm not sure I would typically bring down the frame, but let's see what text wrap does here. So when you select on your image, it would show you these options here, right? But you can bring out these options as a separate box so you can do more. You can change the offset. So you go to window, make sure the object you're trying to wrap around is selected. Go to window and then select text wrap. This box would come out here. You can do this where it brings it down, or you can do all around it. So you see, it kind of wraps it around, detects the edges and brings it down. You can do the same, and you can offset it too. You can decide to increase how much images we see all around it, or you can reduce it. That's called the offset. This will become more useful when we start doing the second example where you need the text to go around the object. That's when those tools of offsetting will become useful. But this is very straightforward. You select the second image as well, text wrap around it, and increase the offset. And then you can tell that there's more text. What we can do is we can reduce the text just a little bit more. Maybe that's too much. Okay. Uh, yeah. Now there's more text here, but there are other things you can do. Things like close down the paragraph. So for example, you could close down the spaces here, right? Or you can just find a way to adjust the spaces. So let me see if there's a way to adjust the spaces in between. Um, is it? Mm, Okay. And then you can tell that we are missing one thing too, and that's why I usually prefer to bring down the frames in this kind of setting. That way we have some room to play around. So let me select this frame. We are missing an information here. Who knows what we are missing? Exactly. We are missing that. So we probably want to even bring this down a little bit further. That that means so one of the things you struggle as doing newspapers is how do we ensure we balance the amount of text we have with the space that you have. So let's say we want to fit everything in one frame. How do we make sure that everything fits? That's where the real challenge is. So you see what I'm actually doing? I'm doing here. I'm trying to look for space so that this we actually don't spill into like a second page. And then I want to add a frame. I think there's a way to add a caption. Let me see. Yeah, it's been a while I did this. Let's see. I think there's a way to add a caption. So let's do headshot of Kevin Nixon. Oh, I see. So what typically happens is when you generate a caption, it goes behind the image. Let's see if we do this. Hmm. Um, Caption setup. Kevin Nixon. Set by one. Hmm. Let's see what the caption is. Headshot, headshot. Do you have it somewhere? So Till, that's why sometimes captions can be tricky. So what I typically do is I just add it as a frame, right? So I will just add it as a frame here. Make sure it's aligned. It's a little bit text frame. I think the size is too big. And then you can just duplicate this frame. You can duplicate. One way to duplicate is hold on Options on your keyboard and drag to the box, and then add the second person's name. Okay, I'm gonna delete this, delete this. I'm gonna now adjust the text so that it doesn't spill over too much. Maybe I wanna, let's do 10.9, 10.8, how about 10.5? Okay, 10.5 works. Okay, and there you go. Okay, questions. Was that crazy hard? Right? It's just repetitive. That's what it is. You're just doing over and over again. You're figuring stuff out. Again, I'm going to have you guys recreate this. All right. So I hope you pay that attention. I recorded it as well. What questions do you have concerning the design? I'm going to figure out because it's been a while I did it. There's a way to do the actual captions and make it show, but I'm going to spend time and figure because it's kind of been a while. But do it and make it work out. But yeah, so that's a page, right? And then you can go on to create more pages and do stuff. Okay. So I'm going to save this. We save it as an InDesign file, right? Exercise one. Save it here. InDesign file. You can also export it as a PDF. So for to export it as a PDF, you do save a copy. No, I think it's actually save as. You do save as, select everything, do save as. Um, see. Ooh, tricky. And that's not the point. For now, let's just save as InDesign. There's always a way to save it as a PDF. So if you have no question, that's what I'm hoping we can attempt on Wednesday. So again, I will just have you guys watch the video all over again. If you don't have questions, that's our class for today. That's it. So we left early, right? I would encourage you, please. I'm here. Talk to me. Wednesday, come prepared. We're going to use the studio. I'm going to just watch you recreate. If we have time, I'm going to have you recreate. As a matter of fact, those who recreate the second one gets like an extra credit. Yeah. So that's it.